We will reform Uganda Airlines and UACC into transparent, accountable, and commercially viable entities with strict performance audits. We will establish a substantial domestic air travel fund to insensitivize private operators to open safe, affordable domestic routes. We will position Uganda as a regional air cargo hub for agricultural exports by investing in cold storage and cargo logistics at Entebbe and upgraded regional airports. 4.5 Energy to powering homes, businesses, and industry. 4.5.1 Expand grid access. We will connect all major trading centers, schools, and health facilities across the country to reliable electricity, through the national grid, mini-grids, or solar systems, within 5 years, ensuring consistent power for economic growth and service delivery. We will ensure that at least 60% of rural households have access to electricity, through the national grid, mini-grids, or solar systems, by 2030. We will lower electricity tariffs by renegotiating costly contracts and expanding affordable renewable energy generation. We will delete connection costs to grid for all users including domestic consumption. 4.5.2 Reduce biomass dependence. We will implement a national program to expand biogas and improved cookstoves, aiming to reduce household reliance on firewood and charcoal by 40% within 5 years. We will promote tree planting and community woodlots to restore forest cover and provide a sustainable supply of biomass, while expanding alternative clean cooking. Energy sources. 4.5.3 Scale up solar. We will make solar the centerpiece of rural electrification, aiming to increase access from the current 12% to at least 40% of off-grid rural households within 5 years. We will invest in research and development to establish a vibrant solar energy subsector, harnessing Uganda's equatorial advantage to expand solar energy use and create green jobs. 4.5.4 Unlock wind energy. We will establish pilot large-scale wind farms in Karamoja and the Lake Victoria Basin by 2028, targeting the generation of at least 50 megawatts of clean energy for the national grid. We will offer tax incentives, grants, and low-interest financing to private investors to develop at least 20 wind-solar hybrid minigrids for rural communities by 2030, expanding access to affordable electricity. 4.5.5 Scrapping value-added tax on electricity domestic consumers. We will introduce an amendment to the VAT Act to remove VAT on electricity consumers, effective the 1st of July 2026. The effect of this shall be to reduce the tariff for the category of consumers from almost SHs 925 United States dollars cents to SHs 750 approximately 20 United States dollars cents. We expect the immediate reduction in the tariffs to support many small and medium enterprises (SMEs) to employ more workers as business cash flows improve on account of a reduced tariff. 4.5.6 Renegotiating the Bujagali generation tariff in order to reduce the end-user tariff. Our government will invite the owners of Bujagali hydropower dam for a negotiation to lower the generation tariff from 8 United States dollars and 40 cents to $6. We will be offering them an opportunity to develop another power dam like Iago Power Station at better terms than Bujagali Dam. A lower tariff for Bujagali is expected to lead to a lower generation tariff and ultimately a lower end-user tariff. 4.5.7 UEDCL will have an opportunity to issue a publicly guaranteed diaspora bond. UEDCL will have access to investment resources to invest in rehabilitating, expanding and modernizing the electricity distribution network. This is expected to increase electricity access, reliability of supply and affordability of electricity since the company will be receiving investment finance at relatively better terms than the current market rates. Overall, the scrapping of VAT on domestic consumers, a renegotiated Bujogali tariff and UEDCL benefiting from investment funds from diaspora bonds is expected to lower the end-user tariff from the current SHs 956 equals to utmost SHs 500, with domestic consumers paying not more than SHs 500 per unit. It is expected that the cost for using electricity for cooking would have come down to outcompete liquid petroleum gas (LPG) and biomass like charcoal. Manifesto Priority 5. Create 10 million new jobs by 2032, leveraging tourism 25.3%, manufacturing 60%, sports, and the creative economy 14.7%. INTRODUCTION. Uganda has one of the world's most youthful and fastest growing populations. Uganda has one of the youngest and fastest growing populations in the world and is among the top 4 globally. Yet, our economy is failing to create adequate and decent jobs for the youthful population. Economic growth registered in the past has not resulted in a sufficient structural transformation in employment. Over 75% of our population is under 30, but millions of youths are trapped in unemployment, underemployment, or informal work with little pay, no job security or uncertain future prospects. The demand for wage workers in the private sector has not kept up to speed with the growth in the labor force. The low job creation in the formal private sector is a critical factor behind Uganda's lack of job transformation. Evidence from Uganda's Census Report 2024 highlights that majority, 50.9%, of youth aged 18 to 30 years are not in education, employment or training by gender 57.5% for female and 42.7% for male. The high cost of doing business has continued to hamper Uganda's economy from generating enough productive and decent jobs. Although Uganda has made a 16% improvement in doing business in the last 5 years, more still needs to be done, especially regarding easing access to construction permits, electricity access, trading across borders, registering property, paying taxes and access to affordable credit. Despite the reforms made in the financial sector, interest rates in Uganda remain high, standing at between 20% and 23%. Hence, the majority of micro, small and medium enterprises, which represents about 74%, are constrained by access to affordable credit. This leaves about 85% of actively working Ugandans trapped in the informal sector, as boda riders, street vendors, casual laborers, or unpaid family workers, according to the National Labor Force Survey of 2016-2017. According to Women in Informal Employment Globalizing and Organizing WIEGO, Report 2025, this figure is at 90%. Recent decent work and economic growth metrics indicate that unemployment rate for the persons between aged 14-64 years is 14.5% for female and 10.7% for male. Census 2024 results. But this hides the true crisis. People are working, but not earning adequately compared to increasing standards of living, inflation and fragility of the market prices. Recent decent work and economic growth metrics indicate that unemployment rate for the persons between aged 14-64 years is 14.5% for female and 10.7% for male. Census 2024 results. But this hides the true crisis. People are working, but not earning adequately compared to increasing standards of living, inflation and fragility of the market prices. University graduates continue to roam the streets because their skills don't match market needs. In recent years, many have been forced to seek work in the Middle East as domestic workers or security guards, often under exploitative and abusive conditions that border on modern-day slavery. Facts from the Uganda Banks Association indicate that each year, more than 110,000 Ugandans go out to look for jobs, with the biggest destinations being Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Yemen, and other parts in Europe and the Americas. Labor externalization has potential source for revenue generation with SH's 25B received from migrant workers in the years 2022 and 2023 in form of expression of interest fees, fines, accreditation, job orders local and foreign, and license fees. Compared to countries like Egypt which gets nearly SH's 90 trillion from its migrant workers, the Ugandan figure is too low. This could be explained by the fact that the Ugandan skill sets are not competitive on global scale, thus end up engaging in casual and low-paying jobs which end up exploiting them. Low survival rate of businesses in Uganda despite being one of the most entrepreneurial countries in the world has also limited job growth. According to the World Bank Group Jobs Strategy for Inclusive Growth Report 2019, Ugandan firms do not suffer from barriers to entry. There are signs that they may suffer from barriers to growth. Firm survival rates are declining in Uganda. Only 1 out of 4 firms remain operational after the first 5 years of existence. The Global Entrepreneurship Monitor survey identifies Uganda as the country with the most entrepreneurial culture in the world regarding how business opportunities are viewed and cherished. Our economy remains overly dependent on subsistence agriculture, which employs more than 60% of Ugandans but offers low productivity and income, while industries and services are not growing fast enough to absorb the swelling youth population. Slow pace of urbanization has resulted into sluggish rural-urban migration, leaving a huge proportion of the labor force trapped in low-productive agriculture. The slow reduction in the agricultural labor force explains Uganda's relatively slow urbanization process. Urban centers, towns and cities offer a collection of more wage jobs in higher value-added sectors and off-farm informal sector opportunities. The World Bank Group Jobs Strategy for Inclusive Growth Report 2019 notes that the low agricultural yields are responsible for reduced opportunities for urbanization by reducing resources for diversification and migration. The quality of jobs in Uganda remains low, with 78% of the labor force engaged in vulnerable employment. Most jobs in the country are in the informal sector, with majority characterized by low pay and job insecurity, which remains a strong hindrance to the country's jobs transformation agenda. The informal sector in Uganda employs about 13.3 million people out of the 15.8 million working population, representing about 85% of total employment. Labor relations in the informal sector are primarily based on casual employment, kinship and social relations rather than contractual arrangements with formal guarantees. The following sectors are targeted areas for producing 10 million new jobs. Tourism is one of the world's largest and fastest growing industries, accounting for roughly 10% of global GDP and generating 1 in every 5 new jobs worldwide over the past 5 years. World Travel and Tourism Council, 2023. In Uganda, tourism is a critical pillar of the economy, contributing approximately 7.5% of GDP and earning about $1.5 billion United States dollars in foreign exchange annually. Ministry of Tourism, Wildlife and Antiquities, 2023. Tourism sector and related value chain. Uganda's rich natural endowments, such as the endangered mountain gorillas of Bwindi and Mganga, the source of the Nile, vast lakes, and extensive biodiversity, position it as a unique destination within East Africa. Despite this, much of Uganda's tourism potential remains underexploited and less commercialized compared to regional peers like Kenya and Tanzania. Eco-tourism and community-based tourism offer substantial growth opportunities, given Uganda's conservation and cultural heritage. With targeted investment in infrastructure, marketing, and sustainable tourism practices, the NUP government will significantly increase visitor numbers, boost revenue, and create jobs, ultimately becoming a leading destination in Africa. Situation analysis. Uganda is internationally recognized among the top 10 countries globally for its exceptional tourist attractions, including the iconic mountain gorillas, the source of the Nile, diverse wildlife, and rich cultural heritage. World Travel and Tourism Council, 2023. Despite this global crown, significant tourism opportunities remain underexploited. In 2019, Tourism contributed approximately 7.7% to Uganda's GDP, but the sector was severely impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic, dropping to around 2.5% in 2020. This decline led to a loss of roughly 40% of tourism-related jobs, with employment in the sector falling from 536,600 in 2019 to about 321,960 in 2020, Uganda Bureau of Statistics, 2021. In the year 2023, international tourist arrivals increased by 56% to 1.274 million tourists compared to 814,085 arrivals in 2022 and the peak of 1.52 million in 2019. The international tourism receipts reached $1.03 billion United States dollars in 2023. By 2024, the broader services sector, which includes tourism, trade, transport, and finance, accounted for 42.6% of GDP. Tourism receipts rebounded to an estimated $1.47 billion United States dollars in 2024, signaling gradual recovery. Ministry of Tourism, Wildlife and Antiquities, 2024. Despite its economic importance, the tourism sector remains chronically underfunded. In the FY 2024-25 national budget of 72 trillion Ugandan shillings, only about 289.6 billion was allocated to the tourism development programs and its promotion programs. Only SH's 55 billion was allocated to Uganda's missions abroad to support the Uganda Tourism Board (UTB) to market Uganda to potential tourists, market our exports and attract more investors, an amount insufficient to fully unlock Uganda's tourism potential. Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development, 2024. Marketing challenges are significant. According to the International Growth Center, IGC, 60% of foreign tourists learn about Uganda's attractions primarily through word of mouth, indicating low international consumer awareness, especially in key markets like Europe, Australia, and China. Marketing efforts remain fragmented and sporadic, limiting Uganda's brand visibility. Additionally, the Greater Kampala Metropolitan Area, GKMA, the main gateway for tourists, faces issues such as congestion, pollution, petty crime, and an unattractive urban environment, which diminish the country's overall appeal. World Bank, 2023. Moreover, while Uganda possesses abundant natural and cultural tourism assets, value addition and commercialization remain limited, leaving much of the sector's potential untapped. Despite efforts by the players, evidence indicates that there is a decline in lion populations, from 373 to 275, suggesting ongoing challenges in predator conservation. The average length of stay decreased from 8.3 nights to 7.6, and the proportion of leisure tourists dropped from 19.3% to 15.7% by end of FY 2023-24, underscoring a shift in tourist behavior. Incidences of human-wildlife conflicts increased from 3,436 to 4,414, signaling the need for better strategies to manage interactions between wildlife and local communities. Strategic interventions are essential to revitalize Uganda's tourism industry, focusing on upgrading infrastructure, conservation efforts, strengthening marketing efforts, and enhancing the visitor experience through professional customer service. Tourism has high transformative power to Uganda's economy if fully harnessed. For example, according to the World Bank survey for Uganda in 2013, attracting 100,000 additional leisure tourists would add 11% to exports and 1.6% to GDP. Persuading a tourist to spend one additional night in Uganda would add 7% to exports and 1.0% to GDP. 8% annual growth in leisure and conference tourists would generate an additional 220 million United States dollars in receipts per annum. These facts make a compelling case for us to prioritize the funding and implementation of strategies focusing on attracting tourists, make them stay longer and spend more in the country and drive its growth. In terms of contribution to employment in the economy, tourism will generate 239,000 jobs directly each year for the manifesto period. This includes employment by hotels, travel agents, airlines and other passenger transportation services including commuter services. The total contribution of tourism to employment including wider effects from investment, the supply chain and induced income impacts is projected at 2,527,500 jobs by 2030 of total employment. Uganda's tourism sector is well poised to be the leading growth and development sector in the country over the manifesto period. This is in part due to the expansive array of tourist attractions the country is blessed with, including 10 national parks that boast a cocktail of fascinating wildlife species, various mountains, waterfalls and cultural sites, including 12 wildlife reserves, 5 community wildlife management areas, and 13. This is in part due to the expansive array of tourist attractions the country is blessed with, including 10 national parks that boast a cocktail of fascinating wildlife species, various mountains, waterfalls and cultural sites, including 12 wildlife reserves, 5 community wildlife management areas, and 13 wildlife sanctuaries. The 10 national parks include Queen Elizabeth, Lake Embaro, Murchison Falls, Kidipo Valley, Keble, Mount Elgin, Ruwenzori Mountains, Semuliki, Mganga Gorilla, and Bwindi Impenetrable National Parks. These parks display the best in East Africa. Their Rift Valley landscapes and tropical forests make dramatic backdrops to an extensive variety of flora and fauna. Firms and the related value chain. Manufacturing plays a crucial role in economic growth and development, reflected in its contribution to gross domestic product (GDP) and overall development. The multiplier effect of manufacturing is exciting. Every shilling of output in the sector generates levels of economic activity across society through its ecosystem, related value chains and job creation. No sector in Uganda does more to generate broad-scale economic growth and, ultimately, higher living standards than manufacturing. Uganda's manufacturing sector is composed mainly of food processing, beverages, and tobacco, sawmilling, paper and printing, bricks and cement, steel and metal products, textile clothing and footwear, chemicals, petroleum and other chemical products, non-metallic minerals, among others. According to the National Development Plan 3 (NDP 3), manufacturing is essential for the growth of the country. It has a high potential for enhanced economies of scale for factor productivity and deeper, more dynamic, and stronger forward and backward linkages with other sectors. In addition, it has a greater diversification into a variety of economic activities. A robust manufacturing sector is expected to accelerate Uganda's industrialization agenda. The manufacturing sector is a key engine of growth in Uganda due to its strong linkages and spillover effects. In Uganda, the sector consumes a staggering 66.7% of all the power generated, contributes 18.6% to the GDP, 19% of the total exports to the global market and 14% of the tax revenue collected. The number of industrial establishments in Uganda increased from 80 in 1986 to 4,920 in 2019, and over 1.3 million people are employed in the industrial sector. According to a report by the Uganda Manufacturers Association, the manufacturing sector is dominated by small and medium enterprises (SMEs), which make up 93.5% of firms operating in the sector. SMEs are the drivers of the Ugandan economy, for they make up close to 90% of the businesses in Uganda. When the SMEs in Uganda, especially those in the manufacturing sector ecosystem, are well supported and enabled to realize their potential, the employment levels of the country will improve, economic development of the country will be enabled, and financial inclusion as a goal will be achieved. The sector has the potential to do better but needs to be deliberately supported in its efforts and on its journey. Although the manufacturing sector in Uganda has undoubtedly gone through a leap of developments in the last 3 decades, it has the potential to do better and needs to be supported to thrive, leading to economic growth, job creation and poverty eradication, which are key priorities in NUP Manifesto 2026. The manufacturing sector is seen as a key driver for economic growth and employment over the manifesto period, with the potential to absorb a large number of the 600,000 people who enter the Ugandan job market annually. Industrial parks and investment promotion. Uganda has increasingly adopted industrial parks as a policy tool for stimulating economic growth. The existing industrial parks include the Namanvi Park, with 190 companies operating, Liao Shen Park in Kapika, 19 companies, Sino-Uganda Industrial Park in Mabali, 18 companies, Luzira Park, 11 companies, Bweyogura Park, 8 companies, and MMP in Bikwe, 6 companies. Other operational industrial parks include Jinja, Sorota, Kasese, Mbarara, and Tien Tang Mukono industrial parks. These parks are geographically designated zones planned for manufacturing, trade, and service industries. The Kampala Industrial and Business Park, KIBP, is the largest and most developed, and hosts a significant portion of the country's industrial activity. According to the International Growth Center, IGC, firms located within industrial parks consistently outperform those outside the parks in key performance areas such as sales, purchases, wages, employment, exports, taxes, and capital investment. This performance underscores the potential of industrial parks as catalysts for enhancing productivity and competitiveness in Uganda's private sector. The total contribution of firms and related value chain to employment, including wider effects from investment, the supply chain and induced income impacts, is projected at 6 million jobs by 2030 of total employment.